All right, Logic fans, welcome to our fourth video on section 4.3. This is video 4.3D. And I did want to give you one final example here of a case involving three quantifiers. So you approach it the exact same way. These kinds of constructions can occur. So I want you to be familiar with them and, see that you can, in fact, construct such expressions. So pause now and see if you can, following our rules QS1 through QS7, go ahead and build this expression. Pause now. Okay, so hopefully you've had a chance to pause and think this through on your own. It's really important that you do pause and get a feel for it yourself before you listen to my explanation. But we've got X, Y, and Z, so I'm going to use A, B, and C just to track those respectively, and I've got F, G, and H. So I'm going to have FA, and that's going to be QS1. I'm going to build GB, and that's QS1 as well. All right, and then I'm going to have HC, which is going to also be QS1. Okay, and so now I've got these three guys on the board, and what I want to do is I want to start slowly building this thing up and then attaching my universal quantifiers. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to build these guys together. So I'm going to get FA and GB, and that of course is QS3 on lines 1 and 2, right? And then what I want to do is I want to build this whole guy. So I'm going to do FA and GB or HC on, and that is, QS4 on lines 4 and 3, right? Okay, and now what I want to do is I want to start adding my quantifiers, okay? So I'm going to take this whole thing, I'm going to append it in parentheses, right? And the first one I want to add is the Z, right? So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add the Z quantifier right there, and I've got to replace at least one token instance of an individual constant, in this case this one, just because that's what the construction that I'm building asks for. So that's going to be QS7 on line 5, all right? Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this entire construction from line 6, right, and I'm going to attach a universal quantifier to it. Which one? Well, one that does not occur in the previous line, so that in this case y is okay, and I'm going to replace at least one individual constant type in there, and then I'm going to pick that one just because that's what I'm trying to build. And that also is QS7, but on this time we applied it to line 6, right? Then I'm going to take this whole construction and I'm going to put the whole thing in parentheses and prefix it with an individual, with a universal quantifier in terms of an individual variable, x, that does not occur in the previous line. And so that's going to be QS7 applied to line 7, but I've got to make sure that I replace at least one token individual constant. So there we go. All right, and that is a demonstration that this is in fact a quantificational sentence. It can be built up from our rules QS1 through QS7. All right. Okay, let's finish off this lesson with an important idea that I want to make explicit, and this is part of an overarching theme for the course that you really want to make sure you understand. And luckily enough, it's fairly simple going at this point. And that is this final concept or definition. And it's very simple. So let me remind you that when we're looking at universally quantified sentences, right, or any kind of quantificational sentence, for example, this guy, right, we know that first and foremost, this is a negation, right, because its main connective is this guy. However, a sentence like this, right, this is a disjunction because its main connective is this guy. And remember, this was all formally defined as the fundamental types of sentences, right? And we defined that at the end of the previous unit, at the end of 4.2. So, you've got your negations, your disjunctions, your conjunctions, your conditionals, and your biconditionals, right? Then we have the brute ones, which just look like this, right? For example, okay? Well, now we're adding another fundamental type of sentence. Right, so in addition to the negations, the conjunctions, the brutes, the disjunctions, the biconditionals, and all of that, we now have this idea, the idea of a universally quantified sentence. And it's simply defined as a sentence whose last line of its tree uses QS7. Okay, so let's take a look at some examples together and see if you are tracking this. So for each of these sentences, okay, and they are sentences, all right, for each of them, identify its fundamental type. Is it a negation? Is it a disjunction? Is it a conjunction? Or is it a universally quantified sentence? Pause now. All right, so we're going to go through this together now. So pause if you haven't had a chance to work this through. This is a universally quantified sentence. It's a universally quantified sentence because if you were to build it using our tree formations as we've been doing throughout this lesson, then you would use QS7 in the last line, right? And so that's a universally quantified sentence by definition. This is a universally quantified sentence. This is also a universally quantified sentence. Again, you would use in the last line of its tree QS7. This is not a universally quantified sentence. This is a negation. Why? Because in the last line of its tree, you would use QS2. Right? Exact same idea here. This is a negation. This is not a universally quantified sentence. It's a negation. This is its main connective. In the last line of its tree, it would use QS2. This right here, an important construction we'll talk about a lot in the near future. This is a universally quantified sentence. In the last line of its tree, you would use QS7. So what type of sentence is it? It's a universally quantified sentence. Now, it's very similar looking to this one, but these are different. This is not a universally quantified sentence. This is a conditional. Okay? So in the last line of the tree here, you would use, QS5, right? Okay, so you would build this thing, then you would build this thing, and then you would put them together using this, and that would get you a conditional, right? Exact same point holds here. This is a biconditional. This is not a universally quantified sentence. This, however, is a universally quantified sentence. In the last line of its tree, you would tack this on, okay? And we've worked through examples of this in these videos. So this should all look fairly intuitive given the definition, all right? Now, this guy here, this is not a universally quantified sentence. This is a disjunction, right? And we did build this one as an explicit example, right? And the thing we did last when we built it was we used QS4 to make it, and that makes it a disjunction, okay? So it's very important moving forward, all right, that at a glance, you be able to identify very quickly what fundamental type of sentence, what type of sentence is this fundamentally? Is it a disjunction? Is it a conjunction? Is it a negation? Is it a conditional? Is it a biconditional? Is it brute? Right? Or is it now a universally quantified sentence? All right? And understanding what type of sentence you're looking at is going to make your understanding of logic a lot easier. So make sure you understand these, and you can review the definitions of the other types of sentences in 4.2. Okay? And there's plenty of practice problems in the book. Make sure you're trying those out. And good job, guys. We will catch you on the next unit, 4.4, where we talk about the meaning of the universal quantifier. And again, it's 4.3 and 4.4 together that's going to give you a total grasp of the universal quantifier. Okay, so even though you feel like you don't understand what it means now, just getting down how the mechanics of it work is part of the process of learning the universal quantifier. Catch you on the next videos.